सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यं निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनिमायया बहिर्भूत भूतं यथा निद्रया यत्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः। इदं श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। So as previously announced, we are starting a new series from today onwards on the Tuesday night classes. There are two reasons for this change. We will continue with the Mandukya Karika on the Saturday morning, but for the Tuesday night, switching over to this new topic called the vision and promise of Vedanta has two reasons. One is that for some time I felt that since we were having 2 classes a week on Mandukya, and many of you were not able to attend both of them each week, you were missing some essential parts. And I tried to repeat many of the things, but no matter how you do, you cannot completely do that. So that was weighing on my mind, that there are gaps in our communication just because many of you were not having enough time to attend both classes. So that was one reason. But I think more on the positive side, the experiment and the experience that we had at the retreat on October 12th and 13th was very positive. I felt that leading with the concepts of Vedanta, some things that I have really benefited from myself in the more advanced study of Vedanta, to summarize that, and then to give references to the various Vedantic texts from the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and other texts and so on, would provide a certain authenticity to those concepts, so that you don't feel these are somebody else's personal concepts. So that approach, I think, worked very well. The problem we were faced with was that there was very little time. I was perhaps too ambitious in terms of trying to convey an overall sense of Vedanta just in those 6 classes. I certainly was not able to complete it. And even on things that I touched on, I was not able to give the depth that I wanted to. So that gave me an idea, and I think I got some feedback from many of you that you would like to get more details on that anyway. But independent of your feedback, I was feeling right after the contact or the retreat that it would be nice to keep that methodology, that approach, but to take more time for a more thorough treatment of that approach. So I thought that this would be a good time to do it. And some other ideas have come on my mind on how we will conduct this class, and I will talk to you about this in a few minutes. But anyways, to get things started, this is what we are going to do. So what I propose to do, and I will give you more details on what my contributions will be and also what I expect your contributions to be. This will be a joint effort to make these classes extremely effective for you. So I will go into the more details, but basically, just to give you the overall picture of what I intend to do is, I will articulate some very specific concepts of advanced Advaita. Advanced Vedanta means Advaita Vedanta, not just the fact that I'm a Sakshi and this is a world that's not enough. That's not teaching. You have to really go full out into the Advaita part of who I am, the Advaita vision of who I am, what we are. So for that, I will articulate some very specific concepts, and I've chosen to call it tenets of Vedanta. The concepts it's a pretty good word, concept, but it also has a sense of philosophy, a speculation. And I'd like to eliminate that and choose a word which is very specific to the knowledge of Atma Vidya. And there were a couple of different words that I was looking at. One was kernels, Kernel, kernel. But I thought tenets was more powerful. So I've chosen the word tenet. So this is what is called tenets of Advaita Vedanta. So TAV if you want to call it in short. So what I will do is to expand the tenets that we had started with at the retreat, but didn't finish it and didn't really fully explain it. I'll expand that and revise it and fine-tune it as we go along. You don't have it yet, but as we develop these classes, I will tell you. And every time I introduce a new tenet, I will say that, and so you will need to make a note of that in your mind. But more than that, that's number one. The second thing is that I will give you plenty of references from the Shruti Vakyas, all Bhagavad Gita and Upanishads and Brahma Sutras and so on. So you actually have a very direct connection between these tenets and where they came from, where are they discussed. So you have certain confidence that those are really the ones that all the acharyas talk about. Okay? So this is one. Then there's a couple of other things that I will talk about in more detail. Let me just postpone that for just a minute. One question that you may have is why the need to understand these tenets? Why do we need to go through all of that? So I just want to make sure that you are clear about that. So the way this thing works is that the Atma, the self, you and I, our reality, is really quite simple. I'm aware, and I am unlimited. Aparichinnaha, Sutasiddha, all those kinds of things. Very simple. Nothing very complicated. To understand worldly knowledge is very complex. Swami Dhananji used to say that just to have a knowledge of an apple, you probably need multiple PhDs. What is the DNA of the apple? What is the time period before it starts to decay? Swamiji used to say that really the very individual aroma and smell of the apple, the taste of the apple, is very hard to pin down. And then finally, you can do a lot of analysis on how the what does the aroma and the taste really consist of. Point is that you can go for a long time and still not get a complete an idea of that. So the Laukika Jnanam, the worldly knowledge, is of that type. It's very complex. There is no finality to it, what is called anirvachaniya, and so on. Atma, on the other hand, is very simple. Very simple. Either you don't know it or you know it. And once you know it, it's very, very simple. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. There's no variations to it. We are all Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The whole Brahman is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. The whole Ishvara is Satyam Jnanam Anantam. So there's no complications for it. So then the question is, if that is the case, if Atma is very simple, why are we going through all these complicated tenets? The reason for that is the Atma may be very simple, but our refusal to see it is very complex. We have layers and layers of confusion, doubt, ignorance, whatever you may call it. Things like, that's not my experience. You are saying that Atma is without any limitations. That's not my experience. And I'm not sure that we can ever experience that. I don't think we can do that. Or that it is not possible. There is no such thing in the world as infinite. Everything is finite. I find everybody leading a life of finitude, not infinitude. It cannot be that easy. All these are questions in our mind. How can that be so easy? If that was so easy, how come 8 billion people are struggling and not really? These are all the questions in our mind, all the doubts in our mind that we have to address. That's not what the other scholars are saying. You look at all the spiritual disciplines, and they say that only karma, only actions will take you, and possibly you can go to heaven, and maybe there's a possibility that you will gain some fulfillment, but not here. That's not possible. So not only us, but if you look at all the scholarly people that have really researched it, and also they all agree that it's not possible. That's another thing. I don't see it working. I don't see anybody really free and so on and so forth. So and so forth, there are multitudes of our doubts that we refuse to acknowledge and get rid of. So even though the knowledge of the Atma is very simple, but the ignorance of the Atma is very complex. It is for that reason, one by one, we have to address them in very simple segments. Because this is the thing, why it doesn't work, is that if you look at the whole thing and somebody just talks about it, and even though you are very sincere, you're very sincere, you want to do it, but the totality of the ignorance, the weight of it on you is just too much. So you really have to do it segment by segment, one at a time, and then it will start to multiply, and then it will start to make more sense. But if you take the whole thing as such, this is exactly why we don't really understand it. So this is the reason to have articulated segments that I can deal with. I cannot deal with the whole ignorance, but I can deal with some specific things that I've been asked to look into. And once I see an understanding of why that segment, yes, this I understand. Let's go to the next segments. So, this is the other thing that I've said, is that in some ways, this is like solving a very complex jigsaw puzzle, because the whole picture is not in your mind. You cannot see it. You see some specific things and focusing on some pieces and say, okay, now put that piece over here. All right, now let's look at another piece. Does that match with it? Yes, I think it does. Let's put that here. Slowly you grow to a point where the whole thing accelerates. In the beginning, it's very slow, but as you put more pieces together, the whole picture begins to emerge, and you hasten the whole process. So this is what I think our approach would be, that we will be looking at doubts segment by segment. This is what we call tenets of Vedanta. This is how we do that. There is a verse, shloka by Adi Shankara that Swami Dayananji was very fond of chanting. It says, and I think I mentioned that to you before, Ardha shlokena pravakshyami yat uktam grantha kotibhihi. Means, Ardha shlokena pravakshyami. I'm going to tell this in half a shloka. I'm going to tell you that in half a shloka, what grantha kotibhihi uktam. What is said by thousands of Vedanta texts. Thousands. Kotibhihi means probably crores. I think koti means crore. So it means millions, billions of texts that have been written. And what they say can be summarized in half a verse. Ardha shlokena pravakshyami. So in saying that, Ardha shloka is gone. Half of the verse is gone already. Only half is left. Then he says, Brahma satyam jagan mithya jivaha brahma evana aparaha. This is the central point, which all the granthas are saying. What is it saying? Brahma is the truth. If you define what is truth, what is satyam? Brahman is the satyam. Brahma satyam. And anything that you see is not true. They appear to be true, but it is not true. It is called mithya. Mithya means that there is some kind of an appearance of truth, but if you examine it, it disappears. It's not truth. Truth means that the more you look at it, the more real it gets. Mithya means the more you look at it, the less real it gets. So Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, then finally the Advaita Vedanta. First of all, it is the first half of the second shloka is maybe Dvaita Vedanta. Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. There are two things. They are not two things. Because the Mithya is not the same level of reality. Satyam is Satyam, and Mithya just appears to be Satyam. It doesn't touch the reality. And not only that, Jivaha. Jivaha means you and I, as people, as born people. Jiva belongs to Mithya, not to Satya. It means that our sense of limitations, parichinnatvam, is Mithya. It is not real. So he says, Jivaha Brahma eva, natu apara. There is no difference between Jiva and Brahma. So I cite that because this is the vision and promise of Vedanta. This is what is called Tatparya Nishchaya. Tatparya Nishchaya means what is the essence? What is the central vision? What is the idea behind everything? What is the Shastras really saying? In the Brahma Sutra, this is also called Samanvaya. Tattu Samanvayat. Fourth sutra. Tattu Samanvayat. Means the whole thing can be summarized very quickly and shortly. You are the truth. But then your doubts are so entrenched that we have to go through this whole rigmarole. You see, you are not this, this cannot be, that cannot be. You alone are the Satyam. So pretty soon my mind starts to grapple with all these doubts and eliminates them one by one. And I don't need to be produced, I am already there. This is the vision, this is what we are going to be following. Okay. So let me make an announcement to you, which I was promising earlier, and to give you the background for the for this announcement. I go back to the very important verse that we studied at the retreat, which means any number of classes that you study, any number of texts that you go over, any number of upasana, the prayers that you can do, will not be effective in making you reach what you really want to do. The reason that we are studying Vedanta, attending classes, spending time, is because the promise of freedom is very enticing. That I, in fact, can be, freedom means no problems of any kind, no sukha dukkha. Even bodily problems do not affect me. That kind of a total freedom, hunger, ignorance, thirst, diseases, limitations, any kind of a thing. This is called total freedom, fulfillment. So that fulfillment cannot take place just by studying. So, this is the thing. Another way of saying that, the very famous shloka that we, na karmana, na prajaya, dhanena, tyage naike amritatvamanashu, parena nakam nihitam guhayam, vibhrajate yat yatayo vishanti, vedanta vijnana sunishchitartha, sannyasa yogat yataya shuddha sattva aha. Na karmana, they cannot be done, na prajaya, na dhanena, and even by study, etc. also nothing can be done. So this is very discouraging. I've been studying all this time. How come I cannot do it? So then he says, tam vrinute. We went over this at the retreat. It's very interesting. Swami Mukhandananda has pointed this out, that amongst the various 16 samskaras that each one of has in our lives, one of the most important samskara is vivaha samskara, marriage. Marriage samskara is considered to be one of the most important. Getting married is a very important thing. Why? We can think about companionship, having children, etc., etc. There are lots of reasons, lot of advantages of it. But none of them really point out to the real objective of getting married, which is what? Stop fooling around. Stop even serious dating. Make a commitment. Because really life, the improvement in your thinking, your approach to things and so on really begins after you make a commitment. Before the commitment, because you can walk away from it, supposing you are, seriously seeing somebody and you're committed to that person. But at the back of your mind, there's always the feeling, if this thing doesn't work out, I'm not going to be married to this person. So, as a result of that, you really don't confront the issues that you should address in any relationship. You don't. Because at the back of that is, I don't have to, if supposing someone is creating problems for you and doesn't return your phone calls, whatever it is, or gets mad at you, you say, I'm happy that I don't have to deal with this. God. Marriage is something totally different. After the brief honeymoon and all of that, then the real improvement in life starts. How? Because any of the problems that you might face within the marriage has to take a second seat to the fact, how do I make this work? At least in the old Indian marriage system, where divorce was not, nowadays that's the problem. Even marriages are broken. You can marry 3 or 4 or 5 times. It doesn't really prove anything. But the sanctity of the Indian Hindu marriage is unbelievable. And the only reason for that is your self-improvement, commitment. You have to commit to it. The reason I'm saying is that I have a proposal for you which would say you need to choose this path. This is called Vrinute. We went into some details in the retreat. So it comes from Vara. Vara means to choose the person. Say yes from now on. And you know who the choosing is? You can do it one of 2 ways. You can say choose Ishvara. Really. Or you can choose the self, the Satyam Jnanam Anantam. And because the two are the same, whether you start a circle from the left or you start the circle on the right, they all come together anyway. So you choose. You say, no, I don't know anything about the self, but I really want to find Ishvara. That's my goal. Okay, good. Committed? Yeah. Very good. Or you can say that I really want to know what's going on with me. Where did I come from? Where am I going? Who am I? What's my... That's okay too. But you need to commit to it. So, I have a brief announcement to make on how to make a commitment. And I'm just going crazy with this. So, I know that all of you that attend these classes, many of you have been attending these classes for a long time. I call you committed students. CS to be short. Committed students. You're committed. I find that most of you, sooner or later, listen to all these classes. You're very committed. I'm creating a new class amongst you. If you want, You can continue to be committed students just like before. You attend the classes, unfortunately on a YouTube, not in face-to-face, and that's part of the problem, and I'll suggest some ideas for that. But you're committed, but you're saying, I don't have to do this. I can break it off. If this teacher doesn't really doesn't create any magic in my mind, then I can go to somebody else. There's so many other people, or not even just do it something different. I would like to invite some of you. If you're just like that, then continue. I'd like to invite some of you to what I would call extra committed student. I know I have some wild ideas about class A and so on and so forth, but I just keep it simple. Extra committed student, ECS. ECS. If you want to be an ECS, then you and I need to make a commitment together. What is the commitment that we are going to make? So let me go over that. And at the end of the class, I have a proposal on how you can commit to become an extra committed student. But based on this sahana vavatu, sahanao bhunaktu, which means that this whole effort is a joint effort between you and I. Let me tell you what I am proposing to do as part of this commitment. And then I would like to ask you, are you ready to make a commitment on your part? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. For my part, as I was saying already, I'm going to expand on the tenets of Vedanta from what we basically started with at the retreat, but I'll go much more in depth. I'll think more about it. My preparation time was also limited. The execution time was also limited. So I already have ideas on how I can make it better, and I will propose to do that. That's really a part of my work that I have to do. This is number one. I will also continue to provide references to the texts from the various books. Okay, how exactly we will do that? I think that we have some work to do on whether we do that on a website, or I'm thinking about it, talking to a couple of people. So the executional aside, but the main point is that I will give you pretty much like an expansion of the handbook that you already had, the handout that you have at the retreat, which is some references, and this will be on an expanded level. Number two. Number three, I will try to give you a mini dictionary of all the Sanskrit words that I'm going to be using. Same thing as we did in the retreat, but on a more expanded level. Number three. Number four, I encourage you to start writing Sanskrit words used in Vedanta in Devanagari. There are many ways to do that. I'm already talking to some of my students to see. I already use one method, but there are some other methods, and we will propose to you as number four how you should learn to write Devanagari words. You don't have to write full sentences and learn the grammar or anything like this, but you must know how to insert Sanskrit words, Vedantic words as part of your writing, which I'm going to come to that in a minute. So these are the four things that I will do. Concepts, references, methods of of writing it or Sanskrit, etc., etc. Those are the 4 things. Now, are you ready? So listen to this carefully because you have to make a decision sooner or later. First is very simple stuff. I would like to propose that if you watch the YouTube videos, you drop everything else. Please. This is for your own good. Okay? You're not doing me any favor. I'm just telling you what are the steps that you need to do to make a commitment. For this hour and a quarter or hour and a half sometimes, if we start doing more meditation, you need to be isolated from other tasks and hopefully from other people. If you can put headphones on, do that. Number 2, keep a notebook with you, not loose leaves, but a notebook, okay, that you scribble on and with paper and with pencil and pen. As I give you the tenets of Advaita Vedanta, TAVs, you write it down. And any of the ideas that we will suggest to you about them, examples, comparisons, explanations, and so on, scribble them down on a piece of paper. And do it in such a way that, if enough the detail that if you look at it after a few days, you can know what you wrote. You don't forget it completely. Okay? Finally, number 4, this is the most important one. This is all leading up to it. The fact that you watch the videos isolated, pay attention, not think about other things, don't have your cell phone with you and all those kinds of things. Just be isolated. Because, this is what really makes a difference in face-to-face meetings like we did in the retreat. I got so many feedbacks that it was so good because you were listening to me. There was no distractions. Exactly. You can simulate that. It's not that difficult to do. And by the way, one of the things that I will do is I will keep my YouTube broadcast on so that when you have questions on some things, I'm actually looking at it. I've not been doing it. I close the class and then I look at it later. And I don't really do justice to you any questions. But now I hopefully spend more time on the questions and be able to answer it online. And we will also do some meditation, pretty much like we did in the retreat. So I want to mimic that, all that. Okay, so now the most important thing. This is the crux of your commitment. You ready for this? I suggest to you, even recommend it to you, strong suggestion, strong recommendation. If you want to be an ECS, if you want to be a CS, no changes. You don't have to isolate yourself, do whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But if you want to be an ECS, here's what I'd like you to do. You start developing a booklet of your own called Vedanta as I See It, and your name. This is your personal booklet. And this booklet should be put on the computer, not just handwrite it. Put it on the computer. Use Microsoft Word or Google files, or whatever else you want to do. That's up to you. But develop a well-structured book that you start to fill in as we talk about the tenets. And this is why I was saying it's important that you also put down the Sanskrit words on it, because the language can be English. That doesn't make any difference. Like I sometimes read it in Hindi. But the words have to be in Sanskrit. And it's not that hard. And we will assist you with it. And you can look up the meanings of it later. But the articulation of it and the writing of it should be done in Sanskrit. And there are so much software available where you can intersperse a sentence in English with words in Devanagari in between them. You can do that. That will authenticate your personal notebook. And then slowly over time, you will develop your own personal notebook with your understanding of Advaita Vedanta. You can ask, what am I going to do with it? Nothing. The most important thing will be just simply writing things down. And this is not new. This is not untried. All students, teachers go through this. Swami Dayanandji was the editor of Swami Chinmayanand's magazines. He wrote it all down. Svidhidatmanandaji, he has written, transcribed and edited so many of Swami Dayananda's books, so many of them. I have done a lot of writing on my own, including the Kaivalya Upanishad, which was kind of like the major work that I did. But I've written a lot of articles. If you look at my library, it's full of every time I actually teach a class, I write it all down. Writing is a very important thing. Otherwise, your ideas are just in your mind and they can disappear. But to put it into words that you write crystallizes your thoughts. It is an amazing thing. You must do it. So the question is, what will you do with it? First of all, you don't have to do anything. But if you want, you now have a personalized notebook. These are thoughts that have gone through you. It's not as though you're just writing my words for it and transcribing them. These are your words. And this is your booklet. And you can give it to your own family, to your friends. If you want to publish it, it's up to you totally. You can refine it. It doesn't mean that exactly as I'm telling you is the way it should be. You can refine it, change it. But you must develop. And if you don't have that much time, supposing you say, all this sounds good, but that I just don't have the time. You don't need a lot of time. At least do a minimum to write it down. If you do have time, I cannot think of a better way to spend your time than to come up with something which is very solid. These are your words and your ideas, and you own them, and they make a deep impression on them. Swami Akhandananda makes this point very well. He says, the difference between a sadhaka, a student who is really accomplished, and the one who hasn't, is the depth to which the thoughts penetrate your own mind. Because you can listen to it on the surface and say, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, good. Okay, then you go on to it. But the more you think about it, and this is where Nididhyasanam also comes into the picture, the more you let it go into the deeper recesses of your mind, It's kind of like, I remember, I don't always follow this, but when I was working for IBM in 1960s as an engineer before I joined Hewlett Packard, one of the things that I've always enjoyed about my own attempts at things is I always want to improve things. How do I get better? It was interesting. One of them was speed reading. So I took classes on speed reading. I thought that would be it. So anyway, I was just giving you some examples for it. But I do remember instructions from people saying, you think about something deeply and it establishes yourself inside that you can never forget. So this is the advantage of this method. This is all that I wanted to convey. I don't want to have anything more to do it. So I have now a very specific proposal, if you're ready for it. Those of you that would like to sign up as an ECS, Extra Committed Student Nomenclature, I'm going to send out right after this class a WhatsApp message on the teaching WhatsApp group, which I think you all belong to. And the title of that will be, I resolve to be, resolve means attempt, my serious attempt. I resolve to be an extra committed student, ECS. This is all the thing I'm going to say. And if you want to be one of those, all based on this mutual commitment, my hard work and your hard work, and please send me an emoji. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's emoji. But I think there is a thumbs up sign. I've never used any of that, so I'm not used to it. But I think there must be something, or you can use any emoji you want. Just send me an emoji. And I will know who you are, because the emojis have names associated with it. It's a very clever scheme, actually. And we will go from there. So that is all I wanted to say in this class. I don't really have any teaching per se. That we will begin from next Tuesday. We'll have a class next Tuesday, and then we will skip the second Tuesday because of the election on Tuesday the 5th of June. Then we'll begin again. So I don't have anything else. I'm just going to say a small prayer, and then I will open up my laptop to see if you have any questions on what I just said. And you kindly spend some time thinking about it. And if you have some doubts or clarifications, I will look for it in my laptop, and before we pack up. So that's all I wanted to say. I invite you. I think this would be a lot of fun. I think that together with the attempts to articulate the basic principles of Advaita Vedanta and your commitment to really to be engaged in making that happen for yourself will yield very good results. I think I'm absolutely positive about it. Okay, so it's a small prayer. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Okay, let us see. Okay. All right. All right. I'm looking to see if you have any questions on this. So far, I don't see anything. All right. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to log off and wait to see what you think about it, and we'll go from there. Okay? Very good. Hari Om.